Once upon a time, there was a boy named Huck. He lived with the widow Douglas and her sister, Miss Watson, who are trying to civilize the young, adventurous boy. The women are always talking about the right thing in God, which is pretty ironic considering they own slaves. Huck comes sneaking in after an adventure with Tom Sawyer, and his pap is in his room. Pap is an alcoholic and tells Huck that school is bad. He also says that Huck is trying to do better than Pap. Pap kidnaps Huck and locks him in his house. Huck stays, but as Pap beats him, and more, almost killing him, Huck decides that it's time to escape. He fakes his own death by killing a pig and spreading its blood all throughout the house. He robs his dad and takes the canoe and begins traveling down the river. As Huck is traveling, he comes upon Jackson Island and decides to stop and hide there. While he is there, he sees a campfire and realizes someone else is there. He comes across Jim, who thinks he is a ghost. Huck assures Jim that he is real and asks Jim what he is doing. Jim tells Huck he ran away from Miss Watson to a town called Cairo because he does not want to be sold further south. Huck promises he won't tell on Jim, even though his deformed conscience tells him that this is going against what society says is correct. They find a floating house while they are on the river, and they also have found a raft which they are riding on. On the house, Jim finds Pap, dead, but doesn't tell Huck because he doesn't want him to be hurt. Huck wants to find out what is going on, so he goes into town dressed as a girl. He goes into town dressed as a girl, and he finds that men are going to the island to find this runaway slave, which is his best friend, Jim. Huck runs back and gets Jim, and they escape down the river on their raft. While on the river, they come across a sinking boathouse that has 3 murderers inside. Huck decides that he wants to go on it, but Jim is not for it. So Huck goes and does it anyways, and finds these 3 murderers about to kill their victim. As the murderers were about to find Huck, Jim comes in the nick of time to save him and pulls him out of the sinking ship. Huck did not tell on these murderers because he would want someone to do the same for him. When they start to get close to Cairo, Huck finds a house and meets the Grangerfords, who are in a rivalry with the Shepherdsons. Huck stays with the Grangerfords and loves every moment of it because he knows this is the closest thing he's ever had as a home. Huck's friend's older sister runs off to marry a Shepherdson, and so all of the men go out and fight each other. Huck sees his friend Buck get shot and is heartbroken. So he finds Jim with the help of a slave and to leave before it's too late. And off they are down the river again, once more. Huck and Jim come across two men who are in lots of trouble. These two con men call themselves the King and the Duke, and they force themselves upon Huck and Jim's raft. Huck and Jim try and get away from them multiple times, and finally, they get caught. The two, King and Duke, try and pull off their biggest stunt yet with the Wilks. They pretend to be the two lost uncles of these poor three girls whose father just died and left a lot of money as inheritance. Huck has finally decided he's had enough of this foolishness, and he decides to grow up. He stashes the money in a coffin of Peter Wilks. But he realized they did not have time to get the money out of the coffin before it was too late. And then the two real brothers of the dead man show up, and the town is in outrage. They don't know who to believe. So they decide to dig up the coffin to find out if that body really had a tattoo. And when they dig it up, they find the gold Huck has stashed. And Huck realizes it's yet one time more to run away and to escape to the raft with Jim. And so the two con men, King and the Duke, realize that they need to sell Jim to get their money to get by. So they sell Jim to Sally and Silas, claiming that he is the runaway slave everyone is looking for. When Huck returns to the raft and finds out that Jim was sold, he sets off to find his lost friend. Aunt Sally sees him and thinks that he is Huck's best friend from home, Tom Sawyer. Sally is Tom Sawyer's aunt. He pretends to be Tom while he can work out a plan to get Jim free. Then Tom comes in a couple of days like he was planned to. Tom plays along with Huck to free Jim because he just sees it as another adventure. But this adventure is more than just a foolishness. Tom ends up catching a bullet in the leg in the attempt to free Jim. And the whole town was in outrage, just wanting to lynch Jim. But they realized how much he helped Tom to save his health and bring him to a doctor when he risked his own freedom. Later, Aunt Polly sends a letter to Aunt Sally explaining who Huck and Tom Really are.